Well, welcome. I'm Chaplain Bill Ferris here with Positive Freedom. Uh, Wanted to give you just an interesting take on something that I've taught over the years of the power of we and looking at uh, combat stress behaviors. What do negative ones look like? What do positive ones look like? And what can we learn by just simply looking at such a list? Um, so I've entitled it Who to Trust, because who do we trust? Um, when we do this type of work. And we want to look at it and bring in Iron Man and Captain America and look at this idea of combat stress. So when we look at a list, and what I'm using is an appendix B4 from Field Manual 1-05, an older edition of the Army specific chaplain religious support manual. So in the back of one of these manuals, there's a list of combat stress behaviors in 3 columns. In the middle, we're not going to talk about is criminal acts and misconduct, but there's just your basic battle fatigue, negative combat stress behaviors, and then there's the positive combat stress behaviors. And there's great things to learn just by simply looking at these lists. So when we look at negative combat stress behaviors, battle fatigue, here's some of the things that we look at, we hear. Hyper alertness, fear, anxiety, irritability, anger, rage, grief, self-doubt, guilt, physical stress complaints, inattention, carelessness, loss of confidence, loss of hope and faith, depression, insomnia, impaired duty performance, erratic actions, outbursts and freezing, immobility, terror, panic running, total exhaustion, and apathy. I think many of us have gotten there at some point in time in our veteran and first responder world, let alone others. You get to that place of battle fatigue and apathy, and you realize that what are all those about? Those are all about a single individual, right? And they're all about CYA, and you can't overcome adversity in life like that. That's not the answer. So what is the answer? Well, positive combat stress behaviors, we can look at a list and begin to get an answer, but it might not exactly give us some of the more important details. So positive combat stress behaviors include unit cohesion, loyalty to buddies, loyalty to leaders, identification with unit tradition, a sense of eliteness, a sense of mission, alertness and vigilance, exceptional strength and endurance, increased tolerance to hardship, increased tolerance to discomfort, increased tolerance to pain, and increased tolerance to injury, a sense of purpose, increased faith, heroic acts, courage, and self-sacrifice. So giving of yourself instead of being apathetic and not giving anything, right? Because you have nothing left to give. So the power of we. But whose are we? We'll get to that, right? But when we have identity and trust in others, this we shall overcome. That's when you have your buddies, you overcome the worst, right? Because you can, because you got help. So when we look at then the character arcs of Tony Stark's Iron Man, Steve Rogers, Captain America, right, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we see some interesting things because initially Tony trusts in, believes in himself above all others, right? He's a narcissist, and he's a brilliant narcissist. He's the smartest man in the room, and he knows it. So who does he believe in? Who does he trust in? Himself, right? He thinks he can figure out the answers. But then he does something like Ultron and realizes, man, can't do it alone, right? Because alone you screw it up. you need some help, particularly some of the ideals that Cap brings along with him, right? The morality of Cap is sort of a soft power, a great weapon that Tony needs. Tony needs Cap, you know, and Cap initially trusts in his ideals, but what he does is what's interesting is he identifies and he puts his ideals with the institutions that he serves with to begin with, right? We see in Captain America First Avenger that he's a soldier, he's in the army, and so he puts some trust in America and the army, and you know, thinks that he's doing the right things, thinks that he's on the right side, right? Which he is, but maybe not. He doesn't understand the full picture yet. So in Winter Soldier, he realizes that America and SHIELD and whatever else they are connected with, obviously there's some international oversight into SHIELD, and he realizes he might not be on the right team, that they're starting to build some stuff that is going to kill a lot of people, that, in his words, is not about freedom, that he wants to fight for freedom. He doesn't want to fight for tyranny. So he realizes that the institutions that he's working for are not to be trusted, but to keep his ideals. What's interesting, though, is Black Widow is one of the persons that is willing to do things that initially appear against Cap's ideals. So is it just about the ideals? Or does he then eventually become trusting in Black Widow, right? As they go through Civil War, and he has his team based on his ideals of not being under the oversight of the UN, right? Because they're even worse and more dysfunctional, and definitely not about freedom than America. So that's even worse. Tony, wanting to get himself in check, wanting some oversight, he's okay with the Accords, right, in Captain America Civil War, and he then starts to build his team, which includes Black Widow, which is interesting, that she's initially on Tony's side. Hey, you know, at least we're together, right? But what happens is then she switches sides and goes with Cap, and I think that's when Cap, you know, he had some initial trust of her in Winter Soldier because she was with him and helped him figure out what he needed to figure out about Hydra infiltrating SHIELD, and then she helped him win that battle. So Cap, then she eventually comes back to his side. Cap trusts his friends, and that's where you realize, yes, your ideals are important, and ideals are more important than the institutions. The institution is just a tool, right? It's just that the ideal that is above the institution is more important than the institution, right? A great example would be church. Are we to trust in a church, or are we to trust in God? Are we to trust in Jesus, right? Christ is greater than the church, right? Freedom is greater than America, right? And international cooperation is definitely more greater than the UN. So it's the ideal that's more important than the institution, and it's also the idea of coming together as we, the battle buddies, is more important, the trust, than self. You need your battle buddies, and that's how you overcome, right? What's the thing that Cap continues to stress? How are we going to win this battle? Together. Together. And then we're going to see here later this month in Avengers Endgame that they eventually assemble, come together in a one great team to win the day, however they win the day. We don't know how that's going to happen yet. But that's where they need to go. They need to come together and trust in themselves. So then how does this relate to us? Well, we can overcome anything if we have that identity and that trust in our battle buddies and in our tribe and in our place. So how do we find our tribe? How do we find our place? Well, who do you identify with? Vets can identify with other vets, right? And we can trust some, but we don't trust all. We definitely don't trust institutions, right? So one of the things I found interesting was, here's a picture of a vet that is part of Troops for Teachers. And I've also done some work with youth, with troubled youth, and I find this very, very rewarding. Love working with kids, man. Love kids. And I find that vets can be a powerful force today in helping our youth of today, because we do understand what they're going through. In puberty, you're looking for identity, you're looking for who you can trust, you're looking to find your voice, right? And to find your place. Well, a lot of us vets after combat, we don't understand our place, our identity, how we can serve, who we can trust, because normal society, normal people are culturally different than we are, particularly after combat. And we have to then heal ourselves by helping each other, and we have to re-identify with identity and place and who to serve and how to serve. And so I thought this was a great example of one of the things we can do is be a great service to the civilian world because of who we are and what we've learned. That we can be some of the best mentors, coaches, teachers, pastors, direct care staff for youth because of who we are and what we've been through and what we've learned. Right? And that gets into part of finding your identity and finding your team that you can trust, your tribe that you can trust, is you being a good teammate, you being trustworthy, right? You healing yourself so that you can help others heal themselves. Amen. So again, this is Positive Freedom. You can find us at our homepage, positivefreedom.net. We offer one-on-one freedom coaching for vets and first responders. We offer online courses and an ongoing community. An interest like this, I hope this stimulated some thought and hopefully some comments of who we can trust and how we can trust and how we can find our place in the world again after combat. May you continue to be part of our community, our private Facebook group, Fellowship of Freedom, and look us up on the homepage, look us up at our member page, and be part of this ongoing movement of vets helping vets and first responders so that we can truly find our tribe, heal our tribe, and lead and serve others from all that we've been through. Amen.